3.5. Solving inequalities using multiplication or division. So here we have the multiplication property of an inequality and the division property of inequality. Let's first take a look at the multiplication property of inequality. If A is less than B and C is positive, then AC is less than BC. For example, 2 is less than 3. If I multiply by a positive number 5, then this would be 10 less than 15, and the statement will still be true. However, if A is less than B and C is negative, then if I multiply C to both sides of the inequality, I need to change the inequality or switch the inequality. For example, 2 less than 3. If I multiply both sides by negative 5, I would get negative 10 greater than negative 15. We have to switch an inequality in order for this statement to be true. Division property of inequality. If A is less than B and C is positive, then if you divide C to both sides of the inequality, the statement will still be true. For example, 6 less than 8. If we want to divide 2 to both sides, you would get 3 less than 4 at the end, and it will still be true. However, if you divide by a negative number, if C is negative, we have to switch the inequality. See? Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. Then this will become negative 3 greater than negative 4. If we leave it as negative 3 less than negative 4, this statement will not be true. So, keeping this in mind, we can start some practice problems. Solving an inequality using multiplication. M over negative 3 greater than 3. To solve this inequality, we need to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1 over negative 3, which is negative 3 over 1. But I won't write the 1 in the denominator. Because we multiply by a negative number, we need to switch the inequality sign. However, for this one, we're multiplying by a positive number, so it's not necessary to switch the inequality sign. Part B, solving an inequality using division. Here, we have a negative coefficient. Therefore, we need to divide by negative 10 to both sides of the inequality and switch the inequality sign. Cancel out the negative 10 on the left-hand side, and then divide 34 by negative 10, and that should be negative 3.4. And this one, since we're dividing by a positive coefficient, which is 2, you don't have to change the inequality sign. So x is greater than negative 4. Now in part C, it wants you to write a verbal sentence as an inequality and then solve it. So here I give you the chart again to help you out. 5 times a number is at least 45. So to solve for the variable n, I can divide by 5 to both sides. Cancel out the 5, then n is greater than or equal to 9. A number divided by 4 is at most 8. Now we can solve. then n will be less than or equal to 32. Okay, let's take a look at some problems involving inline skates. You want to use inline skates. You can either rent inline skates for $12 per day or purchase them for $60. How many times will you have to use the inline skates in order for the cost of purchasing them to be less than the total cost of renting them? So rent will be $12 per day. Purchase will be $60. And in this last question here, it asks you how many times will you have to use the inline skates in order for the cost of purchasing them. So I can say 60 is to be less than the total cost of renting them. So 12 times x. Therefore, I can say that x is the number of times I will be using the inline skates. So I'm going to divide by 12. And then 5 will be less than x. So I can rewrite this as x greater than 5, which means I can use this skates more than 5 times. The second word problem. The weight limit for freight loaded onto a freight elevator is 7,500 pounds. The elevator is being used to move 50 heavy crates. Each crate weighs 375 pounds. Part A. How many crates can you move in one trip on the elevator? Assume that the weight is the only factor affecting how many crates you can move at one time. So let x be the number of crates. So I know that each crate is 375 pounds. And if I multiply that by x, it will give me the total number of pounds, which is 7,500. And because it says the elevator weight limit is 7,500, that means the weight of the crates cannot go over 7,500. And therefore we can simplify this. After simplifying this, you should get 20. Therefore, I can move no more than 20 crates. How many times will you need to load the elevator to move all the crates? Since you have 50 crates, then you take 50 and you divide by 20 to find out how many times. So this would be 2.5. So you need to round up. So you take 3 times to move everything. And that concludes our lesson.